Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are tackling something that I think a lot of us have heard or maybe even said ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
That idea of, oh, I have ADD, so I just can't focus, or, my ADHD is why I'm not successful.
Right. It becomes this label, and people use it to explain why they can't achieve what they want to achieve.
Exactly. And while the daily struggles are, of course, very real, we all know about the lost keys and missed deadlines, that blame can become an excuse.
It can. And what we found in the sources for today's deep dive is this really powerful pivot away from that thinking. We're moving from seeing it as a disorder or a deficit and starting to frame it as as a superpower.
A superpower. I love that. And that is really the core idea of this whole deep dive. Your brain isn't broken. It's, to use a fantastic analogy from our sources, it's supercharged.
Yeah, supercharged. The idea is you have a super fast race car for a brain, a Ferrari.
A Ferrari brain. Okay, I like that. It goes incredibly fast. It can think a million things at once.
Exactly. And the engine itself, that's the asset. The problem only really comes up when you're forced to just, idle in traffic.
Or when society expects you to drive that Ferrari like it's a minivan.
100%. So the key is learning how to actually drive the car you've been given.
So our mission today is to unpack that, the features, the advantages, and maybe the maintenance needed for that high-performance brain. Let's start with the name itself, the language.
Right. The language is, it's pretty toxic when you think about it. Attention deficit disorder.
Deficit disorder.
Those two words immediately plant this idea that something is wrong with me, it's negative, it's clinical, and it just reinforces that deficit mentality.
And the sources argue, we have to just throw that out, argue that ADHD is simply a trait, like any other trait.
It's just a set of neurological characteristics. It's no more a defect than, having curly hair versus straight hair.
Or being tall versus short.
Exactly. Think about it. Are you outgoing or are you shy? Either it's good or bad. They're just different ways of being. They're traits.
The height analogy really works for me. I'm 6'2", and my experience of the world, seeing over crowds or hitting my head on things is just fundamentally different than someone who's 5'1".
Well, 7'4", and if you were 7'4", you wouldn't blame your height. Yeah, you can't fit into a sports car.
No, you'd go become a basketball player. You'd leverage it.
You'd leverage it. You work with the cards you've been dealt. So we need to stop using this trait as the reason we're not succeeding and start figuring out how to use it.
Okay, but before we go further, I think it's important to bring in some critical context that the sources really emphasize, and that's the issue of potential misdiagnosis.
This is a huge point. The estimates are that a pretty big portion, somewhere between 30 and 40% of adults who are diagnosed, might not actually meet the full criteria.
Wow, 30 to 40%.
Yeah. For them, the challenge might not be this unique supercharged brain we're talking about, but maybe just, needing to work on focusing skills in a world that is designed to distract you.
And beyond that, you have tons of people who are just feeling overwhelmed, by modern life, and they'll sort of self-diagnose. They'll say, I have ADHD, without ever getting a professional evaluation.
So you really have two groups here. Those with the true Ferrari engine and those who are just maybe driving a normal car through a blizzard of information. But the amazing thing is, the advice is kind of the same for both.
Which is?
Stop defining yourself by what you think is a flaw and start building strategies for success.
I love that. And to prove that this trait doesn't stop success, we just have to look at the list of people who've actually harnessed it.
This list is so important because it just shatters the whole roadblock idea. Let's start with billionaires. You've got Richard Branson.
Classic example, always jumping into new ventures, can't stand monotony.
And then there's Bill Gates, who's famous for his ability to just completely obsessively hyper-focus on code for days on end.
Then you jump over to athletes. The discipline there is just insane. Michael Phelps, Simone Biles, Michael Jordan, Shaq.
Wait, hold on. Michael Phelps. How does someone whose trait is defined by inattention succeed in a sport that is all about repetitive, boring laps in a pool for years?
That's the perfect question, and it really gets to the heart of this. It's a paradox.
It is, and the answer is that they didn't succeed in spite of their trait. They succeeded because they found a way to weaponize it. The task was stimulating enough, physically and mentally, that their focus became unbreakable.
And of course, the entertainment world is full of them. Ryan Gosling, Justin Timberlake, Jim Carrey.
And even looking back at history, people speculate about figures like Ernest Hemingway.
With his intense shifting projects. Makes sense.
Albert Einstein, who was famously a terrible student in traditional school but could focus like a laser on his theories. Thomas Edison, who couldn't sit still.
So the common thread here is that they all figured out the user manual for their specific brain. They took what society calls a distraction and turned it into genius.
They did. So let's unpack those features, starting with the biggest one, the one everyone thinks is the problem: inattention.
Inattention. Yeah, it sounds like a massive flaw.
In simple terms, it just means your brain drifts away from tasks that don't really interest it. But the flip side, the superpower, is hyperfocus.
Right.
When someone with this brain finds something they are interested in, they can achieve a level of focus that's actually stronger, more intense than someone without the trait.
Okay, but here's where someone listening might push back. They might be thinking, that's great, but I only hyperfocus on video games for 6 hours. I can't hyperfocus on my spreadsheets.
Perfect question.
Right.
Because that reveals the whole secret. The sources say the problem isn't your ability to focus. The problem is the task itself.
So my distraction isn't a flaw.
No, it's an indicator.
Yeah.
You have a very intense BS meter for things that are boring or unstimulating.
A BS meter. I love that. So if I'm bored, my brain just shuts off. It wasn't built for monotony.
Exactly. Your brain is literally built to seek out novelty and intensity. So if you're stuck in a boring, repetitive job, of course your engine is going to stall.
And that ties right into creativity, doesn't it? Because that daydreaming, that inattention, is your brain actively looking for something interesting.
Yes, it's your mind making new connections, jumping between ideas. People with this trait are naturally more creative. They're explorers. They are not built to do the same desk job over and over again.
So if you're miserable at work, it might not be you. It might be that you're trying to drive a Ferrari in bumper-to-bumper traffic.
Every single day. Yes, your restlessness is a signal. Your brain is demanding a better challenge.
Which leads right to the next features: curiosity and problem solving.
The sources are really clear on this. People with ADD tend to have way more natural curiosity than the average person.
And you should use that. Let it guide you.
Absolutely. Think of it like your own personal GPS. Let it lead you. If you're curious about science or art history or coding, follow that. Your brain is hunting for that next puzzle.
And because that brain is always jumping from idea to idea, that thing that looks like being scatterbrained,
Is actually your strength. It's what makes you an amazing outside-the-box thinker. You're great at solving problems because you connect ideas that other, more linear thinkers would never put together.
so you see things from a different angle.
Totally different point of view. The recommendation here is to actively look for roles where that's the main job. Creative problem solving. Your flood of ideas becomes your #1 asset.
Okay, last feature, and it's a big one. Hyperactivity. The constant fidgeting, the need to move.
If creativity is the spark, then hyperactivity is the fuel tank. It's a powerhouse of energy, a near endless supply.
The sources had that great little story about Amy.
Yeah, that was amazing. She could party until 3 in the morning.
Wake up at 8, teach 3 intense spin classes back to back, eat, and then have enough energy to go out and do it all over again.
The stamina is incredible. Now, that energy often comes with a bit of chaos, right? The story also mentions she loses her phone at least once a day.
Of course, the speed outpaces the organization sometimes.
But when you channel that energy, you can just go further than anyone else. When others get tired and give up, that hyperactive drive keeps you going.
So you can't just try to bottle it up. Forcing a high-energy person to sit still all day is just, it's never going to work.
It's a recipe for misery. The first recommendation is non-negotiable. Physical activity. Sports, dance, martial arts, anything. It doesn't just burn off steam. It actually helps focus the mind.
It gives the powerhouse an outlet. And the second recommendation.
Keep taking on new challenges. Constantly. You have to feed that high-energy, creative, curious brain with complex problems. That's what keeps the engine running smoothly and prevents the boredom that leads to chaos.
So it all comes down to this toolbox you have. Curiosity, creativity, hyperfocus, this boundless energy. What's the very first step to actually using it?
Acceptance. That's it. You have to stop fighting it. Stop trying to contain your own brain as if it's a problem. So much energy is wasted just resisting who you are.
And that BS meter, the low tolerance for boring stuff, you have to start using that as a compass.
You have to. That feeling of your brain clicking off isn't a flaw, it's a signal. It's forcing you to find what you're passionate about. Because when you find that thing, the hyperfocus kicks in, and all those traits work together to help you excel in ways you just couldn't imagine otherwise.
So the key message is stop trying to be normal. Stop looking at your brain as defective.
Because it's not. The evidence is clear. ADHD is a sign that your brain is equipped with some pretty amazing specialized features. Yes, there are challenges, of course there are. But the goal isn't to fix a defect. It's to learn how to operate a high-performance system.
So, if that supercharged brain is constantly telling you it doesn't like the box that society or maybe that you yourself have put it into, we'll leave you with a final thought.
What's one small change you can make this week to break out of a monotonous task and instead use that innate curiosity, that endless energy, to discover something new? Start driving that high-performance engine the way it was meant to be driven.